I'm gonna give you guys every single tip and trick I know about trying to run any game, especially Fortnite, on the most FPS possible. I'm gonna teach you guys the best ways to optimize your settings for people who are trying to play not just casually, but competitively. Even when I'm playing normally, I want my game to run as smooth as possible. So I'm gonna tell you guys things that I do to make sure that can happen. Quick FYI, I'm just gonna try and make this video as short as possible and get right to the point on every single thing. This is a little different from the normal content I post, but I think it's gonna help people who are on PC, and it might even help people who are on console. If you're getting a PC for Christmas, you're gonna want to know this. Just so you guys are aware of the layout of this video, I'm gonna try and speed through the beginning tips and tricks because those are a little more fundamental, and then I'm gonna try and go to more advanced tips at the end of the video. So as you watch, it may get progressively more and more complicated, but I promise you stay tuned. I'm gonna make sure anyone can understand this. Let's get the tip above the webcam and let's get started. Try not to worry about what pros have and what settings they are using. Understand that for the most part that some of their settings are gonna be working for you, but just a general rule of thumb, if you want the best settings, experiment for yourself because that is key. I would recommend turning everything off and having everything set to really low, and then slowly raise things from there and learn yourself about what settings do what. If you don't know what you're turning on and what you're turning off, how are you going to know what's best for your PC? Try your best to learn those. But without say, the less work you put in your graphics card, the more frames you're going to get. That's pretty simple. Next, stop everything you're doing, whether you're on PC or console. Get an Ethernet cable and make sure it's Cat 6 or above. Don't get Cat 5 or anything below that. And if you have Cat 5, you should upgrade. It's not going to be something major, but having Cat 6 is really important. Everyone has at least Cat 6, I promise you. Look into that if you don't know. Me personally, I use Cat 6, but if I was rich gang, I would buy Cat 7 or even Cat 8. I think they're on 8 or 9. Now this is a big one, especially for people with budget PCs. Have at least at the very minimum 8 gigabytes of RAM. If you stream and record, get 16 gigabytes of RAM. There shouldn't be any question about it. Save up a little bit of extra money and get 16 gigabytes of RAM. Make sure you get the same type of RAM if you do upgrade. Me personally, I wouldn't get anything less than 16. If you're really on a budget, you got to do what you got to do and you can work with it. Believe in yourself. Next thing I want to talk about is a little confusion between DX11 and DX12. Especially for Fortnite, this is extremely important. I looked up on the internet and found some good information. According to this guy on the internet, he posted a blog about DX11, DX12. He said if you're on Windows 10, you'll be able to test out DX12. If you're confused about what DX12 or 11 even is, think of it as a different way your graphics card can handle information. For some graphics cards, it's better for using DX11. Some graphics cards, it's better for using DX12. And when I mean better, I mean get more frames. So if you're struggling with frame drops, one of my friends even had the same problem. He switched to DX12 and he found it was better and running smoother. Since there's millions of people with all different types of graphics cards, my recommendation is to try it out for yourself. If you're having frame drops right now or extremely low frames, try out DX12 and see what happens. You never know, it might work. Like I said, experimentation is key. What I can conclude about my research on DX12 is that for the most part, it does boost Fortnite FPS for most graphics cards. DX12 and 11 affect both your CPU and your GPU. A specific quote I found was, during a heated battle, the number of objects on your screen can skyrocket, which makes sense. This places additional demand on your CPU. This additional demand can cause your frame rate to drop, especially during critical moments of a game. DX12 uses your CPU a little bit more efficiently, about 10% on average. The guy who commented on this post said that his game crashes a lot on DX12. Now this was in July, so in context it was about 4 or 5 months ago, so it could have been optimized since then, but this guy switched back to DX11 and his game stopped crashing, but he might get a little bit less frames. See what works for you, but I would definitely try out DX12 if you haven't already. I gotta interrupt you real quick. This is Futurecast. One thing I found that has never been talked about before, at least to me, is that if you go to settings and you scroll down, you could see here NVIDIA Reflex Low Latency and Latency Flash. This is something that I have never seen before and I think has recently just been added. I looked up a video explaining what it does. It's only out for certain games, but I'm going to try to explain it to you in about 2 sentences. In most cases, it helps with bottlenecking, and the CPU does not throw as much load onto the GPU, which makes it so it's a faster response time, and in most cases, it barely affects your FPS. I have not experimented with this, but I encourage you to. You might notice that your edits are a lot faster, especially for Fortnite. I think that's really important. If you have an NVIDIA GPU, try turning it on or putting it on plus boost and try both and see what happens. Experiment because this might give someone an upper hand. You never know. Quick tip is to make sure that you have your game installed on an SSD if you have one. If you're on PC with only a hard drive or you're on console with only a hard drive, then there's not much you can do. But if I were you, I'd definitely put my game on an SSD. It's a simple tip, but I feel like some people don't do it. Really quick tip, make sure you play on full screen. That's what I'll say. You could use windowed full screen, but a quick summary from my research again, I did find that it does cause a little bit of frame drop. So if I were you, I'd recommend playing full screen, no matter what game you're on. Since I'm a streamer though, sometimes I do run my game in on windowed full screen so I can switch between music and games and Discord and stuff like that really quickly. But if you're looking to optimize frames, definitely play full screen. When an application runs in full screen mode, it runs in exclusive mode. That pretty much means you're gonna get better frames. Speaking of Windows, make sure your PC is always up to date. Not only that, make sure you downloaded the correct drivers for your GPU. Optimizing your GPU with the correct drivers will allow the game to run more smoothly, especially on newer games that come out. Always check your GPU drivers about once every 2 months, maybe once every month. For an NVIDIA GPU, you use GeForce Experience, and for AMD, you're gonna use the Radeon software to download those drivers. One small thing that I've seen some pro players do, lower their 3D resolution by about 5 to 7%, and you gain a small FPS boost because it allows your GPU to not render the game as much. Just make sure you don't lower it too much because then it's gonna look like this. View distance is even something that I got tripped up on. My question was to figure out how big of a difference it was when I was on a pretty good GPU myself. I found this one guy talking about FPS boost online and talked about view distance. This is what he said. He even said that lowering your view distance to the lowest it can be can improve your performance, especially on a slower device, which is really important to this. But in most games, a further view distance is an advantage. When he tested it himself, he found that an epic view distance and a near view distance, which is the lowest one, is not that big a difference. In fact, it's very minimal. So unless you're looking to get every frame sucked out of the game, then I would probably put it on something around epic. It doesn't have to be that high though. Pick whatever you fancy. If you have a 240Hz monitor or a 144Hz monitor, just double check to make sure that you're matching your hertz with your frame rate in game, and double check to make sure that the hertz of your monitor are actually set to what it's supposed to be. If you use a 144Hz monitor, I have heard that playing at 165 FPS or even 180 FPS in game might help it feel a little more smoother, but to be honest, I don't really notice that much of a difference. So in order to check the hertz of your monitor, you come here and you're going to type in display settings. You're just going to click enter, and from here you're going to scroll down. You're going to go to advanced display settings. You're going to select whatever monitor you want to choose. This one is my 60Hz monitor. This one is my 144 as seen right here. You just click down here, display adapter properties for display 2. Then it's going to come up with settings, and you just want to click monitor, and right here you could see what hertz my monitor is running at currently, and you just want to set it to the highest one. Same thing applies for the other monitor. You just want to click here, 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 boom, boom, and then make sure you're on 60 hertz if this is only a 60Hz monitor. Now, I don't like to group people, but I'm pretty sure this includes about 90% of people that play Fortnite. Make sure you turn on multi-threaded rendering in game because it allows your processor to use multiple cores at once to render the game at a faster and smoother pace. If you don't have multiple cores in your CPU right now, I'm gonna do you a favor. Send me your address and I'm gonna come to your house. I'm gonna throw it out the window. Make sure in the settings you turn off record replays as a small FPS boost, especially in late game when there's a lot of building and you have to save all that. It might give you a few frames. This is a simple one, but make sure your game is always up to date. There's a setting on the PC where you can go into the Epic launcher and turn on auto updates. Not only is it important, but it's just convenient to turn this on. Next, sometimes changing your resolution can be an FPS boost too. Back when stretch res was a thing, people were lowering their resolution and in turn was making the game run way smoother and way more enjoyable for most people. We all know about the patches to stretch res, but there are some resolutions that people have changed to, and it might benefit you to change to some of these resolutions because it will give you a small FPS boost. Essentially, the less resolution you have, the better it's going to be. Don't take this too far though, just play with what you're comfortable with. But a popular one that a lot of people use are 1750 by 1080. If you guys know some good ones, leave them down below in the comment section to help some other peeps out. But I think for the most part, 750 is probably the way to go. Real quick, if you made it this far in the video, leave a smiley face down in the comment section so I know you're listening. I'm gonna try and reply to every single person that does. If for some reason you're experiencing mad FPS drops and you don't know what's happening, it's happening on multiple games, or maybe it's even happening on one game, download Malwarebytes. You're gonna run a virus check on every file you have in your PC. Just double check you don't have anything on there. Specific viruses can cause FPS drops in many games across the board. Could affect your GPU, your CPU, or your whole system. Download Malwarebytes and run the scan because you never know what you're gonna find. This is not a sponsor, I just happened to use it the other day. A big tip is to turn off hardware acceleration in Google Chrome, Discord, Spotify, or Apple Music. For some weird reason, my GPU wants to help me listen to my music better. Even though I appreciate you, you better stop doing that shit. To disable hardware acceleration in Spotify, it's the same for Apple Music. You just go to settings, scroll down, go to show advanced settings, and then enable hardware acceleration. Make sure it's in the gray. Same thing with Google Chrome. You come to these three dots, click settings, then you can type in hardware acceleration, and then make sure that's turned off. With Discord, all you want to do is click settings. From here, you want to click on appearance. You're going to scroll all the way down, hardware acceleration, turn that off. If you you've got a pre-built PC, double check your task manager to make sure your RAM is running at the correct frequencies. A lot of companies that build PCs overlook this step. They don't enable XMP in the BIOS, and it makes your RAM run a little bit slower. Enabling this in the settings, if you don't already have it on, can give you a little bit of an FPS advantage. Easiest way to double check this is to go into your task manager, click on performance, then go to memory, and it should be listed for you. This is where you can see how many gigabytes you got and what speed it's running at. Just for time constraints, if it's not running at the right speed, you're gonna have to look up a video on it. It's really simple and extremely easy. You gotta go into the BIOS, turn on XMP, and then save and exit. If you're thinking about doing that too, you might as well just double check to make sure that both your RAM sticks are seated in your motherboard. You should hear a click if they're firmly pressed in. I was playing Fortnite for a whole 2 weeks, not knowing that I was only using one RAM stick. Happens to the best of us. I've never done a video like this, so if you guys enjoy it, like I said, leave a smiley face down in the comment section and let me know what's up. A huge thank you to everyone who used my sporty creator code, and a huge thank you goes out to everyone who likes this video. I got about a week left of this semester, and I'm gonna be pumping out way more videos, so stay tuned and get subscribed for that. Hope you guys like that Christmas tree in the background. I just bought it. I went to Lowe's with my mom and we picked it out. If you want to see more Ken Beans, don't forget to hop through on the Twitch channel and say hello. I answer any question in chat. I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Hope you all have a great night and a wonderful rest of your day. Deuces, everyone. Peace.